Hello, this is Charles Scovill, your Golden Harvest agronomist with your Agronomy in Action Focus Friday here on May the 12th. And this week, what I want to spend a few minutes talking about is actually a phone call I got the other day. And the question was, when should I start thinking about planting shorter season hybrids? And I get that question literally every time around this time of the year. And it's a fair question, but the reality is it is way, way too early to start thinking about changing out hybrids. In fact, I wouldn't even want to start having that conversation until after the Memorial Day weekend. We start looking at dates more like June 1st. And there's some reasons why I make that recommendation. So the first thing I think about is, we've got hybrids in place right now that were picked for your soils, for your management, as the best and highest yield potential products on those acres. And if we throw those out the window to grab a few earlier day maturing hybrids, we're just asking for a greater risk of losing some top end yield potential out there. The other thing is we just realized that in most cases, fuller season hybrids tend to out yield shorter season hybrids. So let's take full advantage of those products we have in place. Third thing is actually some research from Purdue University. And it's kind of interesting to think about the number of heat units that it takes to mature a hybrid, to get it to black layer. And the research shows that actually hybrids need about 6.8 growing degree units less per day of delayed planting after the 1st of May. And so these hybrids, when we plant them a little bit later, actually catch up and mature about the same time. The fourth thing, and I think about this especially this spring and many springs here in Michigan, and that is if you look at the number of heat units that we've accumulated over the last few weeks. In fact, if you'd have planted corn on the 17th of April, that first 2 weeks you would have accumulated less than 15 heat units. Now it takes 100 to 120 heat units to get corn to emerge out of the ground. And so anything planted 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago really is going to emerge about the same time as those planted just a week ago now. So all those things together say we've got plenty of time to plant the crop that we have in the barn, and considering anything earlier right now is probably not going to be in our best interest for giving you the greatest yield potential out there. So speaking of yield potentials, I also want to put a quick plug in here for our yield contests. Golden Harvest is excited again this year to sponsor entries into the National Corn Growers Corn Yield Contest, the Michigan Soybean Growers Yield Contest, and the Golden Harvest Go for the Gold Soybean Yield Contest. Now, all of these entries are open now, and if you get them in by the 30th of June, we will pay for your entry fees as well as your membership into each of those organizations. We love showing off how good our products can yield. We've had a lot of winners over the past few years, and we'd love to add you to that list for this next year. So if you want some more details on that, get with me. We'll get you entered. And come harvest, we will really look forward to some of those prizes that can be won not only from Golden Harvest, but also from NCGA and the Michigan Soybean Growers. So good luck and consider those entries. So we think about what products to enter. This is the time of the focus for talking a little bit about a corn and a soybean that we want to focus in on this week. And for this week, I want to think about an earlier corn, one of my favorites, the G91 V51, available not only as a Duracade Viptera, but also as a conventional hybrid. This is one of those broadly adapted, just plant it kind of hybrids that is, again, one of my favorites from that 90 to 95 day world. And what makes it one of my favorites is the fact that this continues to win yield trials, and it's broadly adapted. But let's get into some specifics of how we really make this thing work well. It likes being planted early. So if we have some cooler, wetter soils, it's going to do well because it's got a rating of a 2 for both emergence and seedling vigor. Some of the best in the industry as well as within our own lineup. Test weight is a 3, which is really appreciated come harvest. And probably the only watch out agronomically is a little lower root strength rating. But within Michigan, with the amount of trees we have and windbreaks, I rarely see issues with this or any other of our corns going down because of root lodging. As we think about disease tolerance, 91V51 is just healthy. The reason it's so healthy is it gets a 3 for its rating not only for northern cornleaf blight, but also for tar spot. And that certainly is a bigger and bigger problem each year. So great for disease tolerance. Characteristic-wise, it's more of a medium tall corn, but it's got that semi-flex ear. So this gives us some real diversity when we can think about the planting populations. In fact, if we run that through Illuminate, if we're running maybe some acres that are lower yielding acres, we can drop that down to 29,000, 30,000 plants per acre. But where it really does its best is on those little higher yielding environments. We want to push that thing to 33,000, 34,000 plants per acre and truly take advantage of that full yield potential that 91V51 has. It also helps with that upright leaf to handle some of those higher planting populations. But with that modified root that it has, that's what gives its real broad adaptability out there across a lot of soils. In fact, it has a best rating for not only highly productive soils, but also those variable and more drought-prone soils. Probably the only soils we want to watch out for is it's only got a good rating on the poorly drained soils and a poor rating for your high pH soils. So that is our 91V51. If you want to see the tech sheet, it can always be found at our website, www.goldenharvestseeds.com. The soybean that I want to focus in on this week is the GH1922E3. So I think about 1922s, I think about 3 things: yield, yield, and yield. So I say that tongue in cheek, but the reality is that thing is truly one of the highest yielding beans we have, even for any maturity here in Michigan. And it's just been competitive across the plots the last couple of years. Why does it do so well? Well, a couple of things on its characteristics. First of all, it's got that medium tall, medium thin plant type to it. And so we can plant that thing at populations best really around 130 to 150,000 plants per acre. And it has a 1 rating for both narrow and wide rows. So very broadly adapted across a lot of management styles out there. It also has very good emergence and standability, a 3 for each of those. But the defensive side is what also helps this thing out when we think about white mold tolerance, very solid, as well as excellent sudden death tolerance. Soil-wise, it certainly loves productive soils, but it does really well in our moderate to more variable soils as well. I'd say the one watch out I have on this is, though it does fine when we put a good seed treatment on for early Phytophthora tolerance, it's those late season Phytophoras that can sometimes cause the 1922 some challenges. So keeping it off of maybe some of those more poorly drained soils that are more tendency to get Phytophthora is probably the biggest watch out for our 1922s out there. And again, that full tech sheet can be found on the website as well. So as I wrap up this week, May the 12th for our Focus Friday, again, if you're thinking about what hybrids to plant, my biggest recommendation is stay the course. Let's wait until after Memorial Day if we do want to plant any shorter season hybrids, because we want to get you the greatest yield potential, and that is always going to be from planting the hybrids that we have in place today. If you've got any questions, as always, give me a call. This is Charles Scovill, your Golden Harvest agronomist, with your Focus Friday here on May the 12th.